Amazing revelation. My son and DIL's shocking attempt to break in exposed a transformative truth. Mary was blissfully enjoying her morning ritual, a steaming cup of chamomile tea, the rustling of pages from the library books she devoured during her breaks, and the gentle sunlight filtering through her studio window, painting soft strokes of light onto her canvas. This was her world. An oasis of muted colors mirroring the cherry blossoms lining the suburb of Maple Heights. At 55, the sacrifice of her artistic dreams for her son Josh's education remained a bittersweet shadow. But it was a choice that brought her satisfaction, woven with every brushstroke she made. However, tranquility shattered like glass against concrete as a loud bang erupted from her front door. Mary jumped, her heart racing against her chest like a wild horse. It dawned on her that the persistent knocking was not merely a prank. It was a threat laced with panic. She peeked through the peephole, her thoughts swirling in a tornado of confusion. Josh? Emily? Their desperate faces melted into one another amidst the chaos. The once familiar cherry blossoms now seemed suffocating. Their fragrance turned sour, a harbinger of discontent. With each punch against the door, Mary's breath grew more irregular. Hadn't she sacrificed enough? Was this the family she'd raised? They couldn't be breaking in. Could they? Perhaps they were playing a misguided prank. As absurdity seeped into her mind, tight muscles urged her to confront the chaos brewing at her threshold. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mary felt cornered, the weight of her past choices pressing down like lead. Her son, the boy she nurtured through sleepless nights and arduous school projects, now sought to intrude upon her sanctuary. Questions cascaded through her mind, knocking her off balance. Did they feel entitled to something more? Something she couldn't provide despite endless sacrifices? Hot anger mingled with deep sadness as she recalled the long hours spent at the library, foregone opportunities to paint as Josh climbed the academic ladder. But it was more than that. Their financial struggles had been obscured by pride, their silent battles waged without her knowledge. How could she navigate this breach not just of her home, but her family's trust? As the door began to splinter, her resolve hardened. She had taught her family the value of hard work and loyalty. If they crossed this threshold, would they find her unyielding or forgiving? In that charged moment of uncertainty, a potential inheritance flickered like a mirage, taunting her as if it held the answers to heal this rift. Yet, with it came the risk of unraveling the bonds they once held sacred. The dinner that loomed ahead promised confrontation, and the echoes of betrayal darkened her vision. Would it reveal truths best left unspoken? The thought gripped her as silence fell, leaving a bitter taste in her mouth. She could feel the impending reckoning hanging in the air, a cruel test of what legacy truly meant. Would love entwine them, or venomously sever their ties forever? The door finally gave way with a splintering crack, and in rushed Josh and Emily, their faces pale and wild. Mary stepped back instinctively, her heart pounding as adrenaline surged through her veins. Familiarity twisted into something foreign, a blink of recognition now marred by a sharp edge of confrontation. The fear she had felt seconds ago morphed into an icy determination. She would not allow this chaos to invade her sanctuary. "Mom, we need to talk!" Josh's voice trembled, urgent and almost desperate, as he surveyed the disarray around them. It grated against her senses, the tension thickening the air between them. Mary's resolve only strengthened in the face of their panic. You could have knocked like normal people. This is my home." Each word felt like gravel, the emotion barely contained. In that moment, she recognized her own voice, a reflection of years spent holding the weight of her family's expectations. "This isn't a joke, Mom," Emily chimed in, anxiety etched into her features. "We're in serious trouble, and we don't know who else to turn to." Her eyes darted around with fear, searching for something that could anchor their crumbling reality. Mary's breath caught. Through her internal storm, she fought to surface, peeling back the layers of emotional turmoil that threatened to suffocate her. The sacrifices made for their future, the years of thwarted ambitions, all spiraled into an anger that mingled with a mother's instinct to protect. "Trouble? You don't even know how much I've sacrificed for you both." "Mom!" Josh shouted, cutting her off. "Listen, please." His voice cracked like thunder in the stillness. "We're drowning in debt. We've been trying to handle it on our own, but it's getting worse. We came to you because we didn't want to involve anyone else." Mary's heart raced not with anger but confusion. The boy she raised was now a man burdened by life's cruel realities. Did he really think she could offer the help he desperately sought? Memories sliced into her. Her empty studio space, the brushes gathering dust, her dreams long abandoned for the sake of stability. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she managed, the words fleeing as frustration seeped into her tone. "Because we thought we could fix this ourselves," Josh replied quietly, guilt folding over his brows. "But we can't, and we shouldn't be ashamed of asking for help." A torrent of emotions surged, blurring her thoughts. The very foundation of their family, once resolute and unshakable, now seemed to quiver under the weight of unspoken truths. Her dreams had never been just her own. They were enmeshed in the fate of those she loved. Could she allow herself to be vulnerable now? "Mom," Emily said softly, breaking through the torrent. "This isn't just about money. It's about trust. We need to rebuild that." The words resonated with a sharp truth, wrapping around Mary like a thin thread, pulling her closer to the possibility of reconciliation. With a sudden clarity, Mary realized that this moment was more than just a confrontation. It was a doorway standing ajar, beckoning her to explore the intricate tapestry of family bonds she had neglected. They seemed on the precipice of a mutual understanding, requiring her to step forward into uncomfortable territory, a condition that would undoubtedly unveil more for all of them. "Then we talk," she said hoarsely, steadying herself against the weight of old fears. "But it won't just be conversation. We are going to confront everything we've been avoiding. Together." As they settled into an uneasy formation in her living room, Mary felt the stirrings of an unfamiliar emotion coursing through her. Empowerment wasn't merely about harnessing her art or assembling brushes, but about confronting the dread that had lurked behind her choices. In that juncture, she took a deep breath to prepare herself. This was where both conflict and potential blossomed. The journey to mend their wounds stretched ahead, filled with uncertain pathways of courage. Little did she know, revelations loomed on the horizon. Would they reveal buried truths, or serve only to fracture them further? Mary glanced at her children as if seeing them for the first time. No longer the innocent faces of youth, but emerging adults, grappling with valiant yet misguided attempts at independence. There was a tenderness in their expressions that made her heart ache, conflicted between an urge to comfort them and the harsh realities they now shared. Silence settled between them, thick with uncharted territories. "Let's break this down," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "Josh, tell me exactly what's going on. Don't sugarcoat it." He nodded, visibly hesitant. "We fell behind on payments after my hours were cut, and it spiraled. We thought we could catch up, but it's just too much." Mary felt a knot twist in her stomach. There it was, the manifestation of her fears. She had always been the wall shielding them from life's storms. Yet here they were, battling it alone and losing ground. And no one else knows? No one. Emily's determination shone through the shadows of doubt. We didn't want to burden anyone. But we're at a tipping point. The gravity of their situation pressed heavily on Mary. Part of her felt a surge of pride that they chose to confide in her. Yet another part wrestled with the twisted notion of failure. But why didn't you come to me sooner? She pressed, the questions drumming in her mind. Josh glanced at Emily, and Mary could sense the weight of shared secrecy passing between them. We didn't want to disappoint you, he murmured, his eyes reflecting both shame and vulnerability. That struck her deep. The very reason for their silence echoed the pain she'd endured within her own silence. You all think I've always had everything figured out, she countered, her voice trembling. But I haven't. I've just hidden my own struggles behind a mask of normalcy. Emily leaned forward, a flicker of understanding in her gaze. Then let's unmask it all. We're family. We should lean on each other. No more pretending. Mary felt the tension in her chest soften. Here was an opportunity not just to remedy their financial troubles, but to delve into her own insecurities. An invitation to reconstruct the very fabric of their relationship. All right, she said slowly. But we need to be brutally honest. I need to know everything. And I mean everything. Their conversation unfolded like a delicate flower, petals revealing layers of emotion and regret. Mary spoke of her dreams, the art she had sacrificed, the sweetness of ambition overshadowed by survival. When she mentioned her abandoned studio, she felt a flutter of something. Hope, perhaps? Emily's eyes shone with admiration. Mom, you should paint again. It could be a way to earn some extra money. The suggestion struck a chord in Mary, awakening a dormant passion. I don't know if I have it in me, but... Of course you do, Josh interrupted, encouragement in his tone. This is the time for all of us to embrace what we've hidden. You can't just be our shield. A surge of courage coursed through her. Maybe confronting these ghosts wouldn't just help Josh and Emily. It might also set her free. A flicker of excitement ignited within her. The audacity to dream while her children grappled with the devastation life had thrown at them. Feeling the weight of the moment, Mary took a breath. Okay, let's figure this out together. We'll break it down. Not just the numbers, but our fears and aspirations too. We'll face it as a family. As they began to strategize, a newfound energy enveloped the room. Bills scattered across the table became less daunting, transforming into stepping stones rather than barriers. They sifted through worries about tuition, mortgage payments, and potential income from her art, all while sharing stories of their missteps and learning how each of them had quietly navigated their discontent. But as the discussions grew more intense, Mary felt a shiver of apprehension. Would unearthing buried fears merely bring resentment back to the surface? The tension oscillated like a pendulum, each swing highlighting the challenges they would face ahead. The night deepened, ushering in a somber realization. The comfort of their familial bond would be tested in unexpected ways. Little did they know. Uncovering one truth could uncover more, leading them into a confrontation with not just their outer realities, but their inner selves. Mary squared her shoulders as uncertainty loomed. The true revelations about themselves waited just a fraction beyond their reach. Were they ready to face what lay hidden in the shadows? The following morning light spilled through the kitchen window, casting a golden hue on the table cluttered with bills and half-finished sketches. Mary stood by the counter, pouring herself a cup of coffee, her thoughts still tangled in the previous night's revelations. The taste of bitterness took on a new resonance. Today she would dive deeper into her past, reigniting the flames of her dormant passion. As she recalled the flicker of hope in Emily's eyes, Mary felt a blistering wave of responsibility wash over her. The sketchbooks on the shelf had become more than remnants of a forgotten dream. They were invitations to reclaim her identity. Yet the weight of realism settled in as well. Could she truly navigate the financial labyrinth while rediscovering her artistic voice? "Mom?" Emily appeared, still wrapped in the warmth of her robe. "Are you okay?" Mary turned, setting the cup down. "I was just thinking about what we said last night. About me painting again. I think I need to start doing it, but I'm afraid," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, revealing the vulnerability she had inadvertently placed on the back burner for years. "Don't be afraid. This can be your new beginning," Emily encouraged, sitting across from her. "What about that one piece you always loved? The landscape with the sunset?" The image flared vividly in her mind, a burst of color she hadn't mixed in ages. "I remember it well. It captured everything I felt," Mary replied, drawing a shaky breath. "Then that's what you need to start with. It will be like therapy," Emily quipped. The notion of turning to art for healing felt light, but daunting. Uncertainty tightened in her chest. "But what if it's not good enough? What if the world has moved on from what I once created?" Emily leaned forward, her tone earnest. "Mom, it's about expressing how you feel. Who cares what others think? We're here to support you. This is your space." Emboldened by her daughter's belief, Mary allowed herself to visualize stepping back into the studio. Inspiration clawed at her, yet the fear of failure nagged persistently. Would starting again incite criticism she wasn't ready to hear? Determined to silence those doubts, she rationalized. Starting locally could ease the pressure. Maybe share the work with friends first, just to see how it feels. As her mind wrestled with the practicality of reviving her art, Josh came into the kitchen. "What's going on?" he asked, eyeing the hushed exchange between his sister and mother. "Mom's thinking about painting again," Emily said, the excitement in her tone tinged with maternal pride. "Really?" He raised an eyebrow, surprised, but intrigued. "That's awesome! We should have a gallery showing in our living room. You could invite friends, make a night of it." His enthusiasm was infectious, stirring something deep within Mary that had all but succumbed to silence. That idea unfurled an array of possibilities. A gallery showing in a familiar yet intimate space, where words transcended their fears through images. But with excitement came trepidation. Could she genuinely open herself to a form of vulnerability so personal? In sharing her art, wouldn't she also expose herself? "Let's start small," she proposed, sensing the potential conflict, both within her and from her children. "I can create a few pieces first, and then we can see how things go." "Mom, this is a risk worth taking," Josh affirmed. "It's not just about us right now. It's about you stepping into who you are. We're all counting on you to take this plunge." Their camaraderie lifted her resolve to confront not just her artistic aspirations, but protect the fragile balance they had established in their family dynamic. Mary's heart thrummed with determination, nearness carving a path through the hesitation that clouded her judgment. However, amidst their encouragement, Mary felt an unsettling tremor of anxiety. Would revealing her spirit catalyze further ramifications? Would their financial struggles overshadow her quest for creativity? As they mapped out this newfound ambition, a lingering thought gripped her. A reminder that their lives intertwined on multiple fronts, balancing fragility and courage in every decision. Each shift could have profound consequences, and with that realization came a haunting question. What if pursuing her passion pushed them further into uncertainty? Later that day, as the shadows stretched across their home, Mary drummed her fingers against the table, grappling with her excitement and the apprehension lurking in the corners of her mind. Unbeknownst to them, the revelations would soon extend beyond art and finances, probing deeper into the very essence of their lives together. A journey fraught with unexpected surprises and confrontations. The moment of truth was on the horizon, whispering to her that exploring these new ventures would demand a reckoning, not just with her art, but with the very identities they had crafted. Mary bristled with anticipation, knowing she would soon need to confront not only the world outside, but the uncharted territories within. What secrets awaited her once she fully embraced this path? In the days that followed, Mary devoted herself to rediscovering her artistry. Each morning she sank deeper into the vibrant world of her sketchbooks, inhaling the scent of graphite and paint as if they were the very air of creativity. Yet for every stride she took, doubt clawed at her shoulder, whispering reminders of her insecurities. Every time she paused to observe an unfinished canvas, she found herself lost in familiar anxieties. What if her hands failed to translate the images in her mind? What if the world had indeed moved on without her? Pushing these thoughts aside became a ritual, allowing her to navigate the precarious line between self-exploration and trepidation. Hours transformed into a routine, infused with nervous excitement. She began working on a piece inspired by her beloved sunset landscape, a deep pink sky melting into burnt orange, the light spilling over a calm lake. As she brushed bold strokes of color across the canvas, a flood of memories washed over her. The field trips with her students, the laughter shared during art classes, the passion that had ignited so effortlessly before life's burdens dulled her spark. Yet with these memories came a realization. Her previous art was a testament to a version of herself that she no longer recognized. What would the new Mary create? A version wrapped in the complexities of adult life, struggling with the specter of financial worries and familial obligations. Despite the whirlpool of thoughts, each stroke reeled her back into the moment. The act of creating became a refuge from the relentless expectations of reality. What started as a tentative exercise morphed into an arduous yet cathartic journey. Painting became both solace and confrontation, a challenge to express emotions long cloistered away. One evening, as twilight draped her surroundings in shadows, Mary stepped back from her easel to assess her work. The masterpiece before her resonated with the culture of failure, hope, and resilience. In that moment, she understood that art was never about perfection. It was a living, breathing reflection of her inner turmoil, an honest dialogue with herself and the world around her. A few days later, she shared her progress with Emily and Josh, who watched intently as she unveiled her latest piece. They leaned in, captivated by the emotions woven into every brushstroke. Their reactions buoyed her spirits, yet within her brewed an undercurrent of fear. What if this validation was fleeting? What would happen when she stepped into the wider world beyond their home? "Mom, it's incredible. You have to show it to more people," Emily urged, and Mary could feel the tension curl back into her spine. "I don't know," Mary replied, her voice tight. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of exposure. What if they don't like it?" "Who cares?" Josh retorted, his excitement unfettered. "This is about you finding your voice, Mom. Let it be heard." They were right. But beneath their encouraging words slumbered the unrelenting reality of impending responsibilities. Was she truly prepared to immerse herself further into the art world, when financial pressures loomed like storm clouds? An internal struggle flickered in her eyes, battling the desire to share her voice with the world against the fear of sinking deeper into uncertainty. That night, as the familial chatter settled into silence, Mary's resolve solidified. Should she continue this path? The answer remained as murky as the shadows dancing across her studio walls. Moments turned heavy with contemplation. She would have to make a choice soon. Would she push forward and confront whatever awaited her, or retreat into the safety of mediocrity? She could feel the weight of transformation pressing upon her, both thrilling and frightening. As she packed away her brushes for the night, a newfound urgency surged through her. In embracing this opportunity to reforge her identity, She needed to confront not just herself, but the world she had long avoided. The next morning would bring with it vital decisions, echoes of fears yet to be silenced, and revelations that might redefine her not only as an artist, but as a mother, and as Mary. What awaited her on this precarious journey into the depths of her creativity? The dawn crept in, softening the edges of darkness. Mary blinked into the light, her heart thrumming in anticipation of what the day might hold. Today was not just any day. It was a threshold, a meeting place between fear and opportunity. After dropping Emily off at school and exchanging casual pleasantries with neighbors, she returned home, heart racing with an amalgam of determination and doubt. The initial rush of ambition faded as she stood before her easel, her latest masterpiece gazing back at her like an unsaid promise. The colors stirred a longing within her, a desire to connect, yet she felt the familiar tug of anxiety winding its way around her heart. She understood that leaving the confines of her studio would require confronting not only an audience, but also the harsh reality of her own limitations. Could she rise above her self-doubt? She dipped her brush into fresh paint, each stroke a whispered question to herself. The thought of sharing her work had been her comfort and her torment. She could imagine herself at a small gallery, her piece adorning the wall alongside other artists. But in that vision, a voice echoed loudly. What if it was met with indifference? What if the applause she fabricated turned to silence? As the hours slipped away, the rhythm of painting soothed her frayed nerves, allowing her to delve deeper into her thoughts. That evening she made a plan, an unconventional one that deviated from her typical habits. She would not wait for validation to find her. Instead, she would seek it out. Fueled by an unyielding spirit, she decided to initiate a local art community gathering. It would be informal, just a few close friends and acquaintances. She envisioned a space for critique, support, and encouragement. The reality of organizing such an affair sent tremors through her, but ambivalence gave way to excitement. With every brushstroke she practiced, Mary felt the shadows of hesitation began to lift. This was not merely an endeavor for recognition. It was about reconnecting with people who shared her passion, about bringing her struggles into light amidst kindred spirits who understood the essence of creation and vulnerability. She spent the next few evenings promoting her gathering, a careful selection of social media platforms and encouraging messages to those she trusted. As the day approached, every notification sent spirals of anticipation and dread twisting in her gut. With each confirmation of attendance, she felt the tug-of-war between elation and terror grow stronger. Invitations out to the entire community felt like sending a piece of herself into the void. Would they embrace her gift, or would it be met with criticism that could reignite her fears? Still, a seed of determination rooted deeper as well. Facing the labyrinth of judgment and uncertainty sharpened her resolve. She was not just an artist, but now a curator of her own experiences, advocating for her voice. As the day of her gathering arrived, Mary felt transformed. Yet the flutter of nerves danced madly within her. She set up her space, arranging chairs, seating herself before her work, like a sentinel protecting her art from the world's scrutiny. The evening air hummed with excitement as friends trickled in, laughter mingling with expectation. She caught glimpses of curiosity and warmth on their faces, spurring her forward. But would this newfound courage sustain itself? What revelations awaited her in this intimate showcase of her evolving identity? As the clock ticked down, she felt breathless, teetering on the brink of vulnerability and strength, yearning not just for approval but for connection. The door creaked open, and a familiar face appeared, one she hadn't invited. The figure of her past stormed back into her life, bearing both memories and questions unasked. "Are you ready for this, Mary?" they asked, an edge of challenge settling into their voice, forcing her to confront what she had avoided for so long. The night held the weight of her choices, and the moment became transformative in ways she never anticipated. What awaited Mary in this collision of past and present? As the weight of the unanticipated presence pressed against her, Mary felt her resolve waver like a paintbrush trembling on the edge of a canvas. The challenge in that familiar voice drew her closer to a forgotten part of herself. A part that had sought approval and connection, but was also riddled with fear and inadequacy. She gave a tentative nod, her throat tight, as if the decision to confront this intrusion would turn the evening into a battleground for her psyche. "Ready?" "I'm not sure," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The stranger's eyes reflected a complexity that flickered memories she had tucked away unceremoniously. This was the very person who once criticized her dreams, the one that convinced her that being an artist was not a viable ambition. Their presence was a reminder of everything she'd fought against to reclaim her rightful place in the world of creation. As more guests arrived, Mary forced her focus back to the reason for this gathering. Each face illuminated by soft lighting represented a step toward her metamorphosis, a chance to share, to expose her art, and, by extension, herself. Yet the specter of her past loomed, amplifying every ounce of vulnerability. What if tonight they saw her past failures instead of her progress? Gathering her thoughts like the splattered colors on her palette, she decided that to move forward, she had to address the reality that had arrived at her doorstep. "I want to show you all something," she announced, directing her gaze toward the expectant faces, her heart pounding in synchronicity with a ticking clock echoing somewhere in the distance. As the chatter dimmed, she stood before her painting, the bright hues radiating confidence despite her turmoil. Emotions danced in the colors, each stroke a reflection of her journey, her battles with self-doubt, and ultimately, her triumphs over insecurity. "This isn't just a piece of art, it's a narrative of who I am." The moment was electric, and the familiar face watched, enigmatic and critical. With every word Mary spoke, she tore down the frail walls of self-doubt that had once echoed with this person's derisions. "I've learned that my art doesn't demand approval. It demands authenticity. It's mine to share, and that's enough." Silence settled momentarily, thick with realization. She held her breath, waiting for the inevitable judgment or silence that seemed so familiar. Through the intimacy of that moment, the tension shifted. Guests leaned forward, curiosity piqued. The stranger's expression remained inscrutable, mirroring back her own conflicted journey. One friend broke the silence, tentatively offering praise. But it was more than mere flattery. It was acknowledgement. Others joined in, voices commingling and encouraging her to share not just the art, but the stories behind them. In that sea of support, Mary began to peel away the layers of her vulnerability, opening herself to the very criticisms that once held her captive. Yet, as validation poured in, the familiar figure continued to linger, their presence a reminder of unresolved issues inside her. Marred by uncertainty, Mary began to question whether acknowledgement from this group could overshadow the past she carried. How could she let go of the fear embedded in her identity? Was there a way to reconcile the artist she was becoming with the one she'd been defined by? Her mind swirled with questions as emotions surged like a torrent, threatening to engulf the progress she'd made. In the midst of shattering self-imposed limits, she felt herself teeter on the precipice of a breakthrough or a collapse. This gathering was turning into a reflection of her internal struggles, rather than the anticipated smooth sail into confidence. And then, as if the universe conspired with her inner turmoil, the stranger stepped closer. "You've grown, Mary. But have you truly dealt with the shadows, or are you just painting over them?" Their words struck fiercely, echoing inside her with a clarity she couldn't ignore. The challenge lay not in the acceptance of her art, but in confronting the shadows that had refused to be dismissed. In this blend of support and scrutiny, she faced a pivotal moment, an invitation to genuinely confront the past. Would she find the courage to journey into that vulnerability, or would the shadows remain only to taint her newfound resolve? The night was pregnant with possibilities, And just as Mary felt the push toward clarity, an unsettling realization dawned. This gathering was not just an exhibition of her work, but a platform for personal reclamation. What other truths existed within her that awaited unveiling? Mary felt the weight of the stranger's words, their sting a brutal reminder of the unfinished chapters in her narrative. Taking a step back from the thrumming excitement in the room, she scanned the faces before her. They were kind, eager, a chorus of advocates she never thought she would gather. Yet, amidst the applause, the specter of doubt entwined tightly around her thoughts. As conversations resumed, praise flowing freely, Mary's heart still raced with an undercurrent of fear. She had stood tall, shared her truth, and unveiled her art. But amid the encouraging voices, the stranger's challenge echoed relentlessly. Had she merely surface brushed over the depth of her insecurities, she escaped to the quiet corner of the room, restless energy swirling within her like a tempest. In solitude, she turned to her own canvas, soaked in thoughts she'd been wrestling with. The artwork seemed to breathe alongside her, a reflection of her turmoil. The ebb and flow mirrored in the colors swirling in front of her. What was she truly trying to express? The realization struck. These vivid treasures she'd created were more than expressions of creativity. They were hidden facets of her soul, yearning for acknowledgement, not just from the world, but from herself. She had a tale to tell, stories trapped within layers of paint and canvas. A subconscious map of her journey from self-doubt to resilience. Emotions coursed through her, and recognition washed over her. This was not merely a confrontation, but an exploration. To dive deeper, to excavate the hidden truths she had buried beneath layers of hurt and rejection. The question loomed larger. What did she still need to address from her past? Bolstered by clarity, she made a decision. Mary would embark on a journey, not just through her art, but also through her memories, emotions, and reflections. She would face the shadows meant to keep her captive, not to be defeated, but transformed by them. Determination ignited within her, a gentle fire urging her to reclaim ownership of not just her art, but of herself. She took a deep breath, gathering the energy around her, wanting to infuse it into her work. This was her moment to redefine and expand her narrative, to allow the audience not only to see what was on the surface, but to feel the complex emotions her art encapsulated. Stepping back into the crowd, exhilaration began to replace doubt. Conscious of the shift in her demeanor, some guests looked at her with renewed interest. She shared stories, shared revelations about her pieces, allowing vulnerability to flow through her words. With each tale told, she unveiled not just her art, but also the intricate battles waged within her throughout the years. A salve to the scars, riveted deep in her identity. But as she spoke, the man's presence seemed to loom larger. His silent judgment a constant, unwelcome companion. Had she done enough? Was this genuine catharsis, or merely an act? Ignoring the swell of inner noise disrupting her newfound resolve, Mary engaged with her audience, noticing that some of their faces held a reflection of her own past struggles. The moment she finished sharing one deeply personal narrative about a particular painting, the room filled with an aura of understanding, an empathy she hadn't anticipated. With that inhale of possibility circulating through her, the energy shifted. A stranger approached her, a woman with kind eyes that sparkled with a recognition of her journey, asking her how she had navigated the hurdles. Was it difficult to unveil? The woman queried, her voice teasing out a thread of intrigue that called to Mary's deeper sensibilities. The question, simple yet profound, echoed in her mind. Kicking up emotions that fluctuated between validation and hesitation, Mary was faced with the opportunity to embrace this very challenge head-on. Would she reveal her calculated work with a flourish, or would she open her heart to her audience entirely? With a newfound sense of agency enveloping her, her next decision would not just shape this night, but perhaps carve the path of her future. What would she choose to unveil next, and how would it redefine the artist she had begun to become? Mary's mind buzzed with possibility as she acknowledged the question, the woman's curious gaze urging her to peel back the layers. Could this moment in the spotlight be a true revelation? Or would she retreat into the familiar comfort of distance? She glanced back at her artwork, a vivid testament to her journey, and felt an inkling break free from within. Taking a deep breath, she squared her shoulders, embracing the electricity that coursed through her veins. This was an opportunity. More than just for her audience, it was a chance for herself. She would reveal. Vulnerability needed to be shared, not hidden. As an artist, it was her job to bridge the gap between the canvas and the observer. Perhaps this was not merely about painting, but about unveiling the story of her past. I realized something while creating this piece, she began, the words spilling forth more easily than she anticipated. Each stroke, each color was driven by the emotions I spent years trying to suppress. The audience leaned in, hanging on her every syllable, and Mary felt the pull of connection grow stronger. She shared snippets of her life, the pain of rejection, the paralyzing fear of judgment, and the moments that formed her. With every word, she unraveled her tightly wound insecurities. The stranger's admonishing gaze flickered in her mind. A challenge transformed into fuel. She spoke of the defiance it took to create from those experiences, the grit required to make beauty from despair. In her narration, she could feel the knot in her chest loosen, the weight of that looming judgment dissipating as she embraced authenticity. The woman, her advocate, nodded in solidarity, a silent encouragement that reinforced Mary's newfound dedication to vulnerability. With each shared story, she began to shift the perception, even of her own identity. She was not just an artist. She was a storyteller, a chronicler of her journey. Suddenly the room felt charged with energy. Conversations simmered in the background, merging with her own thoughts. A cacophony of shared experiences, one that resonated through unspoken ties between her and her listeners. What are any of us, if not the complex tapestry of our past? She mused, aware that the questions she asked echoed beyond her own narrative. Yet, despite her growing confidence, doubt lingered. Was she truly ready to share every detail? A familiar shadow crept back, whispering words of caution. What if this exposure stripped away her protective layers? What if she revealed too much? But then she recalled the empathy transforming her audience, a reminder that true connection came at the cost of openness. Every challenge has its lessons, she continued, feeling bolder. And only by confronting them can we truly grow. This is how I've navigated the hurdles. The room swelled with understanding, nods replacing the earlier silence, and she found strength in the collective response. In the fervor of sharing, Mary recognized a shift within herself. This was a moment of transformation, a public declaration that she resolved to confront her past head-on, unraveling the self-imposed boundaries that had constrained her for too long. She was becoming not just a better artist, but a more authentic human being. As she finished and the air filled with applause, Mary felt exhilaration mingled with trepidation. She had ventured into the depths, revealing the intricate workings of her heart and mind. But would this honesty solidify her newfound identity, or expose her to further scrutiny? The risk felt immense, yet something deep inside urged her forward. What lay ahead on this journey of self-discovery? The echoes of her past stirred a sense of urgency. There were further truths to unearth. Just then, a figure appeared in the doorway, their imposing presence igniting the sense of impending confrontation that had been lurking, waiting for its moment to disrupt her newly minted resolve. Are you ready to face what comes next? The voice echoed in the air, a challenge veiled in curiosity. With her heart racing, Mary realized the next chapter of her story was about to unfold, and once again, She would need to choose how to respond. Mary steadied her breath, her mind teetering between excitement and dread. The moment had arrived to confront not only the echoes of her past, but also the truth she still hadn't fully embraced. The figure in the doorway was a faceless representation of her anxieties, a reminder of years spent wrapping herself in the cloak of unworthiness. But tonight was different. She had uncovered her voice and gathered strength through vulnerability. It was time to step into the light of her newfound identity. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her tone carrying a resonance of determination. She met the stranger's challenge head-on, purpose brimming in her chest. Surrounded by friends and supporters, the warmth of their encouragement enveloped her, casting light on her fears. They had witnessed her transformation, so their trust became an anchor. A figure who once represented doubt now stood before her, their expectations lingering in the air. But no longer would she be defined by their opinion. Mary took a step forward, gesturing to the pieces of art that adorned the walls. "It's time to address how I've allowed others to shape my narrative. My journey isn't just one of art. It's one of acceptance, resilience, and truth." The crowd listened intently, and she saw reflections of her struggles mirrored in their eyes. The morning light seeped through the windows as she began to share stories, not only about her art, but about herself, her misgivings, her dreams that felt thwarted, and her journey to reclaim those ambitions. Each word sculpted a portrait of her transformation, a narrative of triumph steeped in authenticity. In that moment, Mary realized the act of speaking her truth was its own form of artistry. She recounted the times when she felt shackled to the expectations of others, the desires suppressed in favor of stability. Each shared moment became a brushstroke of empowerment, rekindling the flames of her artistic soul. Long thought extinguished. Applause erupted as she concluded her stories. But the most significant recognition came from the strangers who had become companions on this journey. They approached her one by one, sharing their own battles and how her honesty resonated with their lives. "That was incredible," one woman exclaimed. "You've inspired me to confront my own fears and be true to myself. We need to do this more often," Josh added, his pride palpable. "Let's keep building this community of vulnerability and support. You've opened doors for all of us tonight." Mary basked in the validation, each compliment striking her heart like a brushstroke. It became clear. She not only had a talent for expressing herself through art, but also through her words and connections. For the first time, she felt a profound sense of both accomplishment and freedom. Recognizing her deep-seated fears had not only lightened the burdens she carried, but had also fortified the bonds with her family. Mary embraced Josh and Emily, who stood shoulder to shoulder with her. "I couldn't have done this without you both. This journey of rediscovery wasn't just about me. It was about us. We've turned struggles into strength together." As the evening unfolded, they considered ways to further foster the artistic community amid their families and friends, striving to cultivate a safe space where creation intertwined with vulnerability. Mary knew that her path had transformed. Art was no longer just a hidden treasure. It would be a shared vessel for healing. Looking around, the room felt electric, a collective heartbeat of understanding and courage. Her heart thrummed with solid confidence, and finally, she recognized her established role. Not just as an artist, but as a voice within her community. With every challenge she faced, Mary demonstrated her growth, proving that the canvas of her life was hers to paint with bold strokes of authenticity. This newfound clarity was her true achievement, an unshakable commitment to exploring the nuances of her identity. Tomorrow, she would begin an art showcase at her local community center, her paintings adorned with colorful stories reflecting her journey. For the first time in years, she had surrendered to the possibility of both triumph and vulnerability, refusing to succumb to fear or to let the shadows dictate her future. This was her moment, an unapologetic celebration of her beautifully complex self, illuminated by shared stories and art. She had conquered her struggles, demonstrated what it meant to face truth, and achieved the fulfillment she longed for, standing firmly within her artistic identity. With a smile brimming with acceptance, Mary turned to her family. Together they were ready to embrace the next chapter, each committing to confront their realities with courage and love. The future stretched before them, a blank canvas waiting to be filled with the beauty of their interconnected journeys. Now, as the journey continued to unfold, she felt the profound weight of liberation. Mary was an artist reborn, with newfound vigor to paint both her world and herself into existence. Join Mary's journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel now. Don't wait even one more second.